Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And before I get started in this episode, I kind of wanted to add another entry to this show. I really want you guys to be part of the show, even more than you are, and really get your feedback on the comic. So an idea I had is that if you guys post your pick of the week, so I always talk about my pick of the week, let me know what your favorite comic was for the week, and I'll collect all the votes, see what the most popular was, and then in the next episode we'll have a viewer's pick of the week at the end of that show, so you guys could be kind of part of the show as well. If there's other ways you'd like to be part of the show and would really contribute to you guys commenting, let me know. So let's dive into the episode though. Today, I had such a huge haul. I don't remember the last time I read so many comics in one day, and this week it was 16 books. Next week I have the normal, like, 10 or 11. But yeah, a lot of books. I even threw in 2 books I normally don't read because they looked interesting. But let's get started. Number 16 for me is, believe it or not, XMen issue 13. I got the, whatever these are called, Timeless Alex Ross covers, and nothing was bad this week. Even with all the books I read, I really didn't dislike any books this week, and this just ended up being the lower tier one, just because it was a bit more exposition heavy. It was about, Apocalypse's past, which I haven't been quite invested in with the X of Swords event, but I like the idea of him collecting his sword, and obviously him being involved in this event. It just was a little slower. I liked the beginning and end. I think that was my favorite part, the actual resurrection aspect of the character, and when he was more involved in I guess the day-to-day of this event instead of just the mythology, which I know the mythology is important, just not as invested in that. But the artwork, as always, has been really solid for this book. I like kind of the grittier tone, especially for Apocalypse story. So overall, I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Not a bad story, just the weaker one out of the week. So that is number 16. Moving on to number 15, which is Excalibur issue 13, the other X of Swords event or issue. It's interesting because last week I felt like it was kind of all over the map. You had one kind of lower, one in the middle, and then like New Mutants in my top 5. And this week it's kind of all together. But yeah, this is just because I'm not a huge Betsy fan. I'm not a huge fan of Excalibur as well. Don't really love medieval storytelling, so it just wasn't my vibe. Actually was a well done story though. I feel like as X of Swords event, and if you're a fan of that character in particular, there's actually a lot that happens. We dig a bit more into her past and the mythos within that series. Artwork was really good. We get some more swords, of course, and more of the circle. So we get 2 more people that are in the circle. I'm hoping by next week, we have the big X of Swords, I guess, midpoint issue. I hope we get everyone in the circle by then, because we've already gone through all the series, and I'm curious to see who the last 3 people will be. I'm guessing Apocalypse will be one since that previous issue, but we didn't get to see him go into the circle. So who will be the next 2 people? And like I said, hopefully that will be announced next issue. But overall, it was an okay issue, just wasn't my particular vibe, but still a well-written issue. And I give that 2.5 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, this has actually been a little lower than it usually is. It's the finale of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 55. And this issue just wasn't my vibe. It was definitely more action heavy than I usually like with the Power Rangers series. I like when it's a mixture of action and humor and emotion. I feel like there was definitely focused more on the plot-driven side of the story, which makes sense because they're diving into a whole new franchise of series with Mighty Morphin, and I believe the other one's just called Power Rangers. So understand that they had to build up to that moment, and there was definitely an interesting tidbit with possibly Lord Draken being Grace's ranger. I feel like it transitioned to that. We didn't see who the Green Ranger is, but I felt like with the conversation Grace had, it was like, oh, okay, I guess she's trying to lure Lord Draken to be part of her team. Like, why not utilize that? And that's super fascinating to me. I think Grace in general is a very cool character because she's just so obsessed with power more than actually doing the right thing, even though I think she wants to do the right thing. It's always a little selfish, so she's kind of more of an anti-hero. So that part I liked. It's a little part of the issue. The rest is just them fighting, I believe, the Dark Power Rangers they were called, and we get to see more of that and lead into, again, the finale or the ending of this Green Power Ranger. Obviously going to pick up the rest of the series, see where it goes. I'm very excited to see the next chapter of Power Rangers, but this was just a little lower for me this week, and that was number 14, I believe. So moving on to number 13, this has been also kind of the lowest this series has been, and that is Batman 101. So this is the epilogue, I guess we'll call it, of the Joker War. I don't think it's actually labeled the epilogue, but it's the aftermath. It's the aftermath of what happened with the Joker War, and it was kind of to the numbers here, and I get that Joker War wasn't so to the numbers, at least in my opinion, so you have to slow things down a bit. But I don't know if I loved everything they slowed down to, especially Catwoman and Batman. I was a bit disappointed with. You know, we had all this build up with Tom King's run of them not being together and then them being together, and now it's like, well, Catwoman, you're a wanted woman, I can't really be around you, let's wait a whole year before we could actually, like, be together. And I didn't quite love that. I was like, oh man, it took so long for them to fight for each other, and now we didn't really get to enjoy their time together, and now they're separate. It could be because we had the Batman Catwoman series coming up, which I don't know if that's in continuity or not. So maybe that's why they have to take a whole year break, because they literally have a year worth of story there. But I was a little disappointed with that. I'm curious if that was like an editorial decision or a story decision. And then the rest, again, point A, point B. Bruce is losing his money. Will he be part of the company? How can he still be Batman? Gotham's in shambles. How do you bring it back up? And I did like the concept that Batman wants to be part more of the city. Joker brings up good points that you're in your manor, you're on your hill, and you're not really living in Gotham. You don't really know what Gotham's about. So I like that. Artwork wasn't a huge fan of. A lot of lines. This artist has worked on the series before. I enjoy Jorge Jimenez's a bit more, his style. So it wasn't really my thing, and I think that's what brought it down a little bit too. But there's definitely interesting concepts here, and obviously excited to see where it goes. I just was a bit disappointed with Catwoman and Batman. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, and that is Black Magick, issue 15. I really enjoyed this series. I'm very happy that it's coming out on a consistent basis. We had to wait a really long time for this arc, and I hope that we're going to continue getting this book on a consistent basis, or just taking that 3-month gap and then getting back into it. The last issue had a lot happen, so this one was a little slower, but definitely plot progression was interesting. Because I feel like the character building was the last issue, and now what's going on with Rowan in her career, and that they expect that she murdered someone, and then in the background with all the other witches that they want Rowan, and then it seems like it's actually Alexandria that's gonna be in trouble by the end of this issue. So there's definitely some interesting plot stuff. I like Rowan and the lieutenant, I think is her role, but I like their relationship, what's going on there. And finally we do get to see Rowan's old partner, what he's been up to. So I feel like it was a good catch-up type issue. Not as good as the previous issue for me, just because I think there was a little bit more emotional beats there, but I think this is a necessary issue to kind of set up the pieces for even more emotional beats to come. And the artwork, as always, I love the noir style, love the grayscale, just the emotions in general for this book is really good. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 12, I believe. That was number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Fantastic Four, issue 25. I've been enjoying this series. I don't think this needed to be extra size. This is actually a pretty expensive book. It was $6. But there's some good story. I really like how Dan Slott's been writing the family, especially in the moments of the family. Like, we have Reed hiding secrets from Sue, Sue hiding secrets from Reed. We get to see a bit more from the kids. I mean, Valeria, not as much drama. She's just being a genius and writing on walls. But Franklin definitely dealing with a lot, that he has now lost his powers in this issue, and that means he might have lost his identity of being a mutant. So, he kind of found himself as a teenager. He's like, I found my purpose, I'm a mutant. That's what makes me special. I have these powers, these Omega powers, abilities, and now that's gone. Who am I? And it's like this kind of interesting heightened teenage coming-of-age story with him. And, then we have small moments with Thing and Alicia dealing with being parents and trying to get their kids in school and trying to wonder, do we homeschool them or if we don't? It's It's kind of interesting, too. I feel like this was written before probably the COVID world that we live in, and I think that's a big question of, schooling system with COVID. So I don't know. I thought of that when I was reading that portion. And then Johnny didn't have much in this issue, but I like seeing Dr. Doom. It kind of felt like a classic Fantastic Four story. Didn't quite care about the intergalactic stuff. I do think there were some filler bits here, but overall there's a lot of shining moments and a lot of good character moments. Artwork is okay. I wish it was a bit more detailed. Again, there felt like there was a lot going on and too much going on in certain panels, which you tend to see a lot with Dan Slott's writing and I guess his art collaborators as well, depending on how a script is written. The last chapter was about the Watcher, so I can't believe Original Sin is still, has threads in the Marvel Universe. It's been how long that book came out, and we're still kind of dealing with the ramifications of Original Sin. And in this one, we get to see the Watcher and Nick Fury team up. Seems like that's going to be a bigger story, so watch out for that intergalactic story. I particularly don't care as much because I don't really like the intergalactic story of Marvel, and I didn't quite like Original Sin that much. Not a bad story, it just wasn't really for me. So I think that's a little bit more for the people who like that series, who like that side of Marvel, which is obviously a big part of Fantastic Four, so it makes sense it was in this issue. So overall, I'm giving that one 3.5 stars. Definitely a fun issue, and if you haven't been reading Fantastic Four, I think this has been a really solid run and some of Dan Slott's best work. Now moving on to number 10, which is Iron Man issue 2. So Iron Man issue 1 was in my top 5. Now this was a harder week because there's just so many books, so maybe it's my number 10 because, again, I had 16 books, and maybe it would have been higher if I only had 11. But yeah, this issue, I love the theme of it. I really enjoyed the Iron Man doesn't even know if he's a hero or not. He doesn't really know why he's doing it. I think it's obvious he's doing it for the fame in some ways. He really wants other people's approval, and that's why it's so interesting to see a lot of his story through like a social media lens and a media lens in general, and we get to see that more here. I love his dynamic with Patsy. I feel like that's when the issues shine the most, is their dynamic, and I do hope it keeps in friendship land, because I just feel like every woman that he ends up having this type of relationship with, he ends up hooking up with. So I hope we get to have something different and just have friends between Patsy and Iron Man. But artwork as well is just so good, especially in those small moments. I really enjoyed and love Cafu's artwork, and I'm glad that he's on a flagship book. The moments I feel like that brought this down a little bit was actually the villains. Like, I definitely understood that, like, the arcade stuff. Like, did Iron Man do that because he has this like kind of death wish. He even says like, I want to be a martyr because I want people to remember me. And I think that's really fascinating. So we get to see that. I didn't quite love the whole Stark Industries scientist being trapped at I thought like, okay, we already had the arcade moment. Did we really need this moment too? But I guess it just kind of culminates into the bigger story of how Iron Man's feeling, which again, I think is a really great thematic arc. I don't know if I really quite care about the main villain as much. I kind of forgot his motives already from issue 1. But overall, I enjoy this book a lot, and I think this is the best we've seen Iron Man in a while. Going back to basics, but still kind of treading on new waters, which I think is always a great balance for a new superhero run. So Iron Man issue 2 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 9, I believe. No, that was number 10. Now we're moving on to number 9. Which, this is a bit higher than the last issue, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 50 LR. They actually explain why they have these LRs in the back of the story. I skimmed the little paragraphs you have in the end, and you're like, oh, this story is too big, that's why they need LRs. It doesn't mean you can't number it issue 51. I think it's just confusing, because then, like, for people that maybe only read some issues of Amazing Spider-Man, they're like, oh, that's skippable. And honestly, this issue is not skippable. It's as important as the last issue. So I do not understand these one-shots and the numberings for this book. I think it's very confusing. But honestly, my best advice to you is just pick up anything that Nick Spencer's writing that is Spider-Man related, because it seems like it's all valuable and not just one-shot character building. But yeah, this issue we get to see a little bit more information about how the Spider friends, Spider family, became those vampire monster creatures. And it's really more about Norman dealing with, yes, confirmation that his son Harry is kindred, which, again, felt like it was retelling a story we already knew. I don't know if really we met new waters here, but I enjoyed those emotional beats there. And moment I liked the most, again, like, kind of forgetting the Spider-Man stuff. Like, I don't think Spider-Man was as strong here. I actually liked Norman storyline, and then by the end, we got a great cliffhanger where Mary Jane returns. The overlaid monologue of Norman saying, I can't help Harry, but it definitely implies that Mary Jane could help Harry. Maybe she could talk him down. So I love that Mary Jane's back. I also think the artwork was really good for this, really clean. I really liked the lighting, especially for this book. So enjoyed that. Again, I just was a little disappointed with Spider-Man himself. I feel like he's like the supporting character of his own book, which is kind of strange. But yeah, I thought it definitely got good by the end. There's some interesting beats overall. A little repetitive, but I've kind of gotten used to that with Nick Spencer's run of Spider-Man. So giving that one 3.5 stars, and picked up this issue because there's an important ending. Mary Jane has returned to New York, so and it seems like she's going to be a bigger part of the story. Now moving on to number 8, which is Teen Titans, issue 46. This is the penultimate issue of Teen Titans. I've been loving Teen Titans. I think it's great. I will say that the actual superhero story seems like it's kind of spinning its wheels a bit. Like the John stuff, I'm like, all right, I get it. Damien's gone. But then the issue really picks up when they forget the superhero stuff and they just talk about the teammates. I really love the Crush and Roundhouse's very unique and unexpected friendship, and them navigating, are we actually friends, ? And then on the romantic side, we get to see Kid Flash and Amico go on a date, and Amico gets kidnapped / possessed, so that date doesn't go well. And, I'm not really interested in the villain, but I really like the emotional moments between the characters, and that's more than half of the issue, so I enjoyed it, which is why it's a bit higher. Artwork is always pretty solid for this book. I'm gonna be sad when this goes, but I can kind of tell that it's somewhat running out of story at the same time. So Teen Titans issue 46 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. And number 7 for me is one of the 2 books that I usually don't pick up but decided to pick up, and that is Nightwing issue 75. Reason I got this, cover looked cool. No, I am a big Nightwing fan. I dropped Nightwing a while ago because of the whole Rick Grayson stuff. I wasn't really enjoying it, so I dropped it. And, obviously you have a lot of books. Sometimes you can't read everything, and I decided, I want to read Dick Grayson again. He's Nightwing again. Let's see what's going on. I really liked him in the Batman flagship. And overall, obviously, as you can see, it was a really solid issue. Even if you haven't been following Nightwing, I do think there's tidbits that you need to know, and I've been somewhat skimming through Nightwing, so I knew that there was other Nightwings, this Nightwing crew, which I think ended very abruptly, so I thought that was weird. And then he has another girlfriend that he loves, and I thought that was really interesting, where how can Rick Grayson's life collide with Dick Grayson, and can he still love this person? So I really enjoyed that. And then also I think what made this higher is that the KG Beast is back. Do I think it's a little quick? Yeah, but I thought it was a really good transition, and it seems like he's out to get the girlfriend, out to get Dick Grayson. So I like that transition and those parallels throughout the issue. And then, Dick Grayson just talking to the people he cares about. Batgirl, Batman, Alfred even. So overall, I thought, and then even the Teen Titans, which I really liked as well. So Donna and Garth. So I just enjoyed seeing Dick back, and I don't know how long this will stay on my pull list, depending on what direction Nightwing goes in, because I always feel like it kind of loses its footing, not knowing where to take Nightwing and be original, but at the same time stick to his roots. So I hope that they find that ground, but I'll definitely give the next issue a shot, and glad I gave issue 75 a try as well. So I'm giving that 4 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6. I don't know what to call this issue because it's 2 numbers, but it's Spider-Woman issue 5 and Spider-Woman issue 100 because it's the legacy issue. I did get that timeless Alex Ross cover. So I've been loving Spider-Woman. It's definitely one of my favorite series from Marvel, probably one of my favorite series on my pull list right now, and it really keeps hitting out of the ballpark. With this issue, we get to see Jessica's mother's not really alive. She's a clone, which kind of felt a little convoluted, but I still enjoyed the emotional beats of that. Jessica doesn't trust her family, which definitely makes sense. They have done nothing nice to her and almost try to kill her again. So it's this kind of complicated ground of do I stick around with my brother? Do I stick around with my niece, or are they just gonna betray me? And then she kind of realizes, yes, I need to be solitary. I'm a spider. And she kind of pushes Roger and her son away, not on purpose. She's like, hey, I want to protect you guys. Like, you know, it's cool. And Roger kind of understands. And then she's going to team up with Carol to go to space to deal with this whole serum stuff. In the artwork, man, I love the art for that last story. It's just like from the beginning of her fighting looked awesome, and then her costume, and you know, her packing up her costume, just all those pages were glorious, and I loved it. But still really like the artwork for the original story as well. I think it's been pretty good and really showed the sickliness of Jessica and the other characters and kind of the hauntingness of it. So overall, really solid issue. Again, some convolutedness in my opinion, but there's some really good storytelling here, and also really digging into Jessica's history without feeling repetitive by any means. I feel like they're really touching on new ground with this book without forgetting where she's come from and actually utilizing where she's come from to tell this story. And really excited to see Carol and Jessica team up because they're awesome together as well. Really enjoyed the humor in this issue as well. But yeah, really good issue, giving that 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Family Tree, issue 9. I can't believe we're up to issue 9 of this book already. But this is a really well done issue. We got a lot accomplished where we get to see the transition between future and present, or past and present. I don't know what the actual timeline is, but it's really the start of the end of the world, and how these people are turning into trees, how Meg was a part of all that, and exactly where our main character, the brother, and their mother is, and we have a really interesting cliffhanger where we find out that he has a family now. So this is Family Tree. Will his son or daughter, I don't know what gender the baby is at the end, but will that child end up becoming a tree as well? Like, how's the wife gonna be connected, or, you know, loved one gonna be connected to this? So I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I thought there was a lot of good plot points dropped here, and that's what I enjoy about Family Tree. I feel like the story's been really on the accelerator. There hasn't been too many pacing problems by any means, and I like the fast pace of this book. Artwork is also really gritty and showcases this kind of earthy feel that you need for Family Tree. And I enjoyed the past / present, whatever that timeline is, as well, to see how we got to this point. So really solid issue. If you're not reading Family Tree, it's one of the best indies on stands right now. It's classic Jeff Lemire storytelling, so go check that out. And that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Dead Day issue 4. And this is another one I've been really, really enjoying. Definitely my favorite Ryan Parrott indie book as of right now. Sure, there'll be even better and great series in the future as well. But yeah, this one has really surprised me because of what it's focused on. It's really about the family as well. And we get to see this kind of like crazy family tree where our main character, the wife or the mother, her son is actually the son of her first love interest, or her first love. And he's dead. And died the day she found out she was pregnant. And there's this really emotional scene where you see that it seemed like she was going to commit suicide, and her present husband is the one who saved her. So we get to see like these really interesting two loves. Like, she still loves that first person she was with, but she obviously loves the person she was married with. And also just like how the person she's married with, Daniel, deals with all this. As the son is dealing with his own drama, with this cult going on, and learning that his dad's not his dad. So there's just a lot of good soap opera drama here, still dealing with this zombie element in a fresh new way. Artwork also is really good, really instilling that emotion. Really enjoying this series a lot. Go check out Dead Day if you are not reading it. So Dead Day issue 4 gets 4 stars, and that is number 4. That's a lot of 4s. But moving on to number 3, a book I was probably most anticipating, and that is Batman White Knight, Harley Quinn, issue 1. And obviously didn't disappoint. This is in my top 5. And it really piggybacks off of the sequel of White Knight really well. It actually fast forwards further than I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd be like a couple of months. It's actually 2 years. Bruce is still in jail. It looks like they're a little bit more lovey-dovey in this issue. And I'm also curious who put the heart on the glass. Was it Bruce or was it Harley? Because you don't really get to see who drew it. I think it's Bruce. I think jail gave him some time to settle in with his emotions. But yeah, this issue is interesting because we get to see Harley obviously dealing with trying to be a mother, and she's not great at it, or at least in her opinion, she's not great at it. And she's like, I don't even know if I should be a mother, like, what's going on? And she talks about how she first met Jack and how she loved Jack, and that's the person she loved, and how she feels like she kind of created the Joker. But what really makes this interesting for a through line of why you want to pick up issue 2 is there's also this ongoing mystery copycat of someone who's pretending to be the Joker, this anti-Joker, who's also a woman, who's killing these Hollywood stars, these old Hollywood stars. And Harley Quinn is on the case, even though she doesn't want to be on the case. It's also interesting to see the artwork is similar to Sean Murphy's art. I don't know if he does the art for this one. If he does, it's definitely a different colorist. That was interesting. It kind of brings a little brighter to the grittier artwork we're used to. I'm really curious to see who did the art, but I don't know where they have the creative team here. But anyways, so I thought that was pretty cool to see the different art style. I really enjoyed that. And overall, just a really solid issue, getting to see Harley have a spotlight here. A very different Harley Quinn than we expect. Still has her humor, still has her spunk, but definitely a different type of humor. And again, just some really unique relationships that you wouldn't normally see in the regular continuity of Batman. So I enjoyed this one. I'm definitely picking up issue 2, and I give that 4 stars. That is number 3. Moving on to number 2. This is a book I was actually recommended at the comic book store. I knew of it, but I was like, it doesn't really sound like my thing. So I wasn't originally going to pick it up. I heard it was good, so I was like, sure, put it in. Let me try it out. And that is Scumbag, issue 1. And man, this is like crazy. I really enjoyed it. Again, I didn't expect to like it. I didn't really know much about it besides, like, the title is Scumbag. And the issue opens up with this guy who's just the definition of a scumbag. Like, he just wants to live his old rock and roll life. He's a drug addict, and he tries to manipulate everyone around him, and he doesn't do it well because no one likes him. And we literally have this midpoint of him just having to go to the bathroom really badly because he hasn't done drugs in a while. It's kind of, it's going through his system. He's doing drugs in the middle of the street, and then he, shits his pants without his pants. So it's like this crazy double-page spread, which I will not show here. I know usually I would show an image, but I will not show you guys that. But yeah, you have that, and then it just turns on its heel, and we get to see this superhero story. This guy, the secret agent, fighting this Venom lady. And there's a serum. He's like, oh, that's my drugs. I'm gonna go take it. And he takes it, and ends up him have to save the world. Because he took this drug, and he's, seeing holograms, and kind of has the Star Wars feel to it. It's like, you're our only hope. It's like, damn, why is he our only hope? Artwork is also really good. I love kind of the watercolor feel to it. It's gritty, but also kind of bright as well. Kind of marries this superhero style story. I can't believe I'm saying that, to this scumbag type story. And it's just it's just a wild ride. I just didn't expect it. And really enjoyed it. It just definitely a narrative from a point of view you don't normally see. And you don't feel bad for him. He's not an anti-hero. It's like, I could feel for him. Maybe I'll feel differently. But you're just like, oh man, I want to see what he's gonna do next. And that's super interesting to have a protagonist like this. So I'm giving that 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And that's my number 2 pick. Now moving on to number 1, a book I really enjoyed the first issue of. Pretty much my top 5 is almost all indies. But yeah, Stillwater issue 2. Chip Zdarsky wrote this one, and I really enjoyed issue 1. It was also kind of one of those series where I just picked up because I knew Chip was on it. I like his writing. I'm like, I know nothing about this, but I'm gonna read it, and it pleasantly surprised me. It was a roller coaster ride. And now issue 2 is the aftermath of that roller coaster ride, where we get to see our main character is an outsider of Stillwater, where it's pretty much Eden, and no one ages, no one dies. It's supposed to be a perfect place. Definitely doesn't seem perfect though, with what we've been seeing. And he's also the son of a resident there, and she seemed loved. People seem to like her, And because she somehow brought her baby outside of this, she is buried alive, it seems like, for 2 weeks. And we get a little information of this cop who probably helped her do it. So was it really her choice? Like, what's going on? So he's brought into this world. The third person to be brought into this world is an outsider, and we're gonna learn through his lens what Stillwater's all about. Again, it's kind of feels like this creepy place with a lot of rules, and everyone knows each other because it's a small town where no one dies. So it was a really interesting issue, and I just like the world building of Stillwater while still getting us invested in the town and in the different characters of this town, like the judge and the sheriff. It does a good job at building the world overall. Also enjoyed the artwork. I think it fits pretty well for it as well. I really enjoyed the character work here from an art perspective and also a writing perspective. And overall, just a really fun book. So definitely go check that one out. I give that 4.5 stars. Now, a reminder, definitely give your pick of the weeks in the comments below. You guys have until Tuesday, and then next Wednesday I'll announce what the viewer pick of the week was. And let me know if you guys like that new segment. I want to hear your guys' opinion. I want to hear what your favorite book was, and it'd be cool to see, as a grouping of everybody, what everyone's favorite book was. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Go check out my comics like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her a Dancer. Every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Comic Book Weekly, where we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. And definitely go check out all that stuff. Thanks, guys. Bye.